So now I'll get into a few more details about these various forms of discrimination felt by Asian people. So first I'll talk about harassment in public. There have been many anecdotal accounts of this public harassment, experiences of public harassment. So in studies, in smaller scale studies, in qualitative interviews with migrants themselves. And it was seen over and over again that the majority of the experiences that they had were perpetrated by young and less educated New Zealanders, and that was the perception. And this harassment took the form as of verbal as well as physical harassment. So verbal harassment could be racist remarks said to them as they were walking down the street. And there were other examples of physical harassment as well, such as having eggs or stones thrown at them on the street, drinks spilled on them at the bar, things like that. So here are some quotes that I've pulled from different reports. So these were reports by different researchers. I'll have you read them yourself. They're offensive. Okay, so now getting to, well, this slide will focus on the Christchurch context, but in 2008, the Report It system was launched, which was an online system where international students could report any incidents of harassment or discrimination that they had felt. And within this report, they provided this graph to show that who was on the receiving end of the harassment, and 65% of the 50 complaints filed were towards Asian people. Okay, so now I'm going to summarize some examples of discrimination experienced in terms of employment, so in terms of accessing employment as well as in the workplace. This form of employment is arguably more detrimental than harassment because, as I mentioned earlier, that harassment, while it happens more often for Asian people than other people in New Zealand, it's still happening at a fairly infrequent rate. But the same cannot be said for employment. So Asian people in the general skills category have higher levels of unemployment as well as lower levels of employment than other migrants. And in 1996, in a study looking at census data, Asians were earning nearly 60% less than New Zealanders with comparable qualifications. And this is a visual representation of these findings. So the zero line there where it says New Zealand born, that anybody who, these bars that are below the zero line, that's the proportion that they're making, proportion less comparatively that they're making with New Zealand born. So again, these are with comparably qualified New Zealand born people. So you can see that from 1981 to 1996, there was quite a drop in terms of how much less Asian people are making compared to New Zealand born. And the same trend was shown in 2006. This yellow bar here shows New Zealanders, New Zealand born, and these bars are median income reported by people with bachelor's degrees or higher between the ages of 25 and 54. And you can see that those 6 at the lowest end are from Korea, Taiwan, China, Japan, India, and Philippines. And there have also been some reports in the last few years that have shown, or in the last decade, that have provided some personal examples of this discrimination that people have faced with gaining employment. So this study done with Sri Lankan migrants showed that approximately half reported experiencing discrimination when searching for a job. And even though this group, people from Sri Lanka at the time, had the highest level of tertiary education in the country, a third of them were not employed. And it's often felt that people are, the reason that people are being discriminated against when searching for a job is because of lack of English, or they don't have, their level of English isn't up to standard. But in this case, the vast majority I identified as either fluent in English, very fluent in English, or spoke English as a first language. And a study was done with recruitment professionals to find out what their experiences were with discrimination, and this was with human resource professionals as well as recruitment consultants. And 95% of respondents felt that people face unfair barriers to employment. And 50% of them identified Asians particularly. They felt that managers and clients were discriminating the most, but a quarter of them even identified recruitment consultants themselves as discriminating against clients. And this is a quote to illustrate this. And this topic has also been studied with empirical research, and two research groups have tried to tackle this topic. And in a set of innovative studies, researchers fabricated CVs for applicants of Asian as well as European background, and these CVs were fabricated to be overqualified for the positions that they were applying for. In this case, this was a simulated study, so the respondents the respondents were human resource management students, and they were asked to rate the suitability of the applicant for the job, as well as shortlist 3 of the pool that they were given. But they knew that these were fabricated CVs. But it was found that Pakeha were rated much more suitably than the Asian applicants, with Indian being rated slightly more favorably than Chinese. And it was found also that those who had anglicized Asian names, those who had anglicized Asian names were rated as more favorably than those who did not, with the same qualifications. And in a second study, a follow-up study, it was found that migrants with UK and Canadian migrants with UK and Canadian qualifications were shortlisted more often than the Chinese applicants who had New Zealand qualifications. And in another study by Colleen Ward, this was a field study. They did a similar thing where they fabricated CVs and sent them in. They were unsolicited and they were sent in for real job applications. But CVs were fabricated for European as well as Chinese migrants, and the Chinese migrants were less likely to be requested for future contact and were more likely to be told that there were no opportunities. And that's